Alrighty, I suppose I need to be honest with you about something. This is not easy for me neither. Okay, so there has been oftentimes I have not shown the cottage. There's certain aspects of the cottage that are really displeasing. They're not the kind of fairy tale that I'm looking to portray to people. Do you understand? Like, have you ever felt like that? You know, when it's not that I'm so much comparing my life to other people's life, but it's just like, you know how like sometimes life doesn't go how you thought it was going to go. For example, I never thought like, oh, I'm going to be married for 24 years and then get a divorce. Or I didn't think that I didn't think that I would end up leaving religion either. I was so sold on the fact that I was completely thought I had my entire life together, you know, and then not only that, and then losing my son to being, he made his transition, and there's oftentimes people, you know, I've been told by many people, not many, I should say maybe 4 people, that have given me advice over the years, and I don't take to advice very well, and the reason is because I've always been that kind of girl that does not like to take advice from people. And it's not that I'm being that I don't understand or I'm allowing myself to be teachable. That's not the issue. The issue is that I've always been the kind of person, like if I'm bigging myself up a bit, because who else is going to big you up if you don't big yourself up, right? But for the sake of this video, of understanding when people tell you like, oh, you're doing that wrong, or you're doing that wrong, oh, you shouldn't do that. And then have you ever had moments in your life where you're like, oh, I knew I should have done that. I knew I should have done that. My gut was telling me I should have done that. And you didn't do it. And then you sit there and kind of beat yourself up a bit, you know? Well, when I was a young girl, I was never that kind of person. Before I became so absolutely insecure about myself, when I met my ill-suited ex-mate, and I'm not saying that it's his fault. However, it's, you know how like when people, and I'm being very raw with you right now, I'm being very vulnerable because I want to be vulnerable. But you know how like sometimes like you would see people and like there's dysfunction or there's things that happen in their life and they're like, why do you accept that abuse? Or why do you stay in an environment that's not that's ill-suited for you? Why do you do this, or why do you do that, when clearly the entire, like, everyone around you can see that you're in an abusive relationship, for example, or you have dysfunction in a particular area in your family or relationships, or generational sort of things, you know? And you know, I was talking to Jeffrey Sean the other day, and I said, you know, it's sort of like when you could see girls or women getting abused, and then you're thinking, why do they keep going back? You know, like I was chatting with my mom the other day about the OJ Simpson thing kind of came up, and you know, and wondering, you know, she was wondering if the family felt, you know, happy in a sense that Mr. Simpson had passed, you know, and it's like, but they, and she was saying, you know, it seems like they were such a, like a well-to-do family that, like, why would abuse be able to go on that long or whatever? And I said, you know, it's sort of like, and not that I'm giving myself an excuse, but it's sort of like when you don't know, like you grow up in a dysfunctional home, you know, and not trying to like rain on anyone or be downtrodden or anything, but I'm being very transparent here, is that you don't understand that it's abuse when you're experiencing it. You think it's normal. And I said, that's the same thing. Like, you don't understand until you get away from it. Didn't know I was in a narcissistic relationship, or that there was such disloyalty, or in all of these things, you know, until you step away, until you've had enough and you've had all you can take from that particular situation, until you finally free yourself. And then once you're able to step back and look at it from a different perspective, then you understand, oh, this is what abuse is. Oh, okay, now I get it, you know? You know what I mean? Like, you don't understand it so much. And so, and going back to what I was saying about when people have said to me, oh, Raquel, you want to sell the story. You got to sell the story. You know, you don't want to tell people about like your son passed and what happened and all of that kind of thing. And I've just come to the point, you know, and I might even cry in this video, because I'm like, you come to the point in your life where you're like, how long do I have to be on pins and needles for other people? How long do I have to keep my voice closed and not share how I really feel so that other people aren't uncomfortable because of me sharing my truth? Because what it does is it creates this crumbling effect of that, like this tower moment in other people's lives as well. Because when you begin to tell the truth, whereas you perhaps maybe were like me, I'm the oldest child, so a lot of times I would take on the responsibility of being the one that was the peacemaker, because I was the only girl. Like, I've got 3 brothers and I was the only girl, and there was a lot of like dominance and stuff when it comes to men being the head of the household. Like, understandably, I grew up in religion, and very, very strict religion. So women are pretty much looked down upon, you know. And so for a woman to be strong is not something that I've ever had great examples of in my life. In fact, I've never had great examples anywhere when it pertains to women. So when you finally decide, you know, after me having my spiritual awakening and leaving religion and deciding that I'm no longer going to tolerate people doing things or saying things that I don't approve of, and just not saying anything because, like, you know, goodness forbid that you tell your truth, because then what happens is everyone is upset with you. But the true matter of it is that you're now telling the truth, so you're no longer willing to hide what the truth is. And so the reason that I wanted to share this is because I want to I want to have a space for women that, you know, and I understand this, you know, the cottagecore community, and we have all of that, and there's many, many channels. There's many people that are doing like the retro thing, or the, you know, on a low income budget, or there's people that are doing like, you know, all home maintenance or whatever, you know, DIY stuff. And I understand that. And, you know, I always think, and that's another insecurity that women, I think, can understand me, you know, is that you think, oh, you know, why does the world need one other person? Why does the world need one other Razzie, you know, to share or whatever? And whereas before, because I'm really working, and I've been constantly in these last couple of months working on my throat chakra, so it's very much purging, you know, to where I've kept silent for so long. And this is like the final, you know, this is the final thing for me to be completely healed from top to bottom. And I'm like, yeah, everyone needs to share the story. Everyone does. And there's some people that struggle with sharing the story in certain areas. You know, maybe they got a solar plex chakra that's blocked, but they don't have their throat chakra, which is what I've always had, you know. And I think that stems loads from me, my psychic abilities and things like that, and being shut down as a little girl. And I think I've talked to this, I've said briefly a little bit about this, but I've always had this air about me, which is hope that you can understand me when I say that, you know, people are saying, don't sell the story, Raquel, don't talk about that. You need to sell the vacation. You need to sell the fairy tale. Do you understand? No one wants to hear what you're saying when it comes to, no one wants to hear about your dead child all the time. And I'm like, as much as that sort of hurts me, because I'm like, that's my story though. That's my story. And I think that there's other women out there that are like me, where you want to live the fairy tale, understandably. You know what I mean? You want to live the fairy tale. You don't want to show anything that is discomforting, that is not magical. Because I have indeed, as much as I'm, you know, a bit dewy-eyed today, I have indeed created such a lovely, lovely place, especially like a little cottage, you know. It's not the most perfect thing that of all my dreams, you know. And that's a couple of things that I wanted to share with you as well, is that I don't put on airs in the sense that, like, for example, I'm putting the beautiful home and the beautiful cottage at the beginning of this video for you to be under the impression that I'm trying to be something that I'm not, or, oh, because I've had people say that, you know, I mean, I've deleted their messages or whatever because they're nasty and they're not kind. And I want this to be a place where women, especially if you've been, like, you've grown up like I have in a very dysfunctional, very abusive childhood, and you're trying to work through that trauma, and you're trying to also, but I don't want it to be a sad place, you know, neither. People that women, I think, are so much can understand me when I say you want to show the world the best parts of you, the best parts of the things that you're doing. That's a way of being optimistic and looking at the world from rose-colored glasses. I mean, it's important to do this, you know, and especially because I'm a spiritual person, so I do understand that, like, you create momentum when you're in negativity, and it breeds off of itself, and it creates momentum of negativity. That's not what I'm saying that my channel is, and nor what it will be about. But I just really want to be a more, and I have been very authentic, you know, I have been very authentic on this channel. And in some areas, no, I haven't been. And it's not because I'm hiding it or anything of that nature, but there's sometimes that you want to work through something before you go and share it with the world, because I would rather speak from my scars than my wounds. I think that that's, you're not able to help other people if you're not saying, hey, this is what I did and this is how I improved this, or understood this particular situation in my life. And now the other thing that I want to talk about is that I want to create a place and a safe space for women that we all know we get on so well. And for Stillwater, the Petticoat Society, which is, I really want to have that community of women, because I feel there's a great lacking of that community, you know. And I understand I can do this online, but there is something about being in the comfort and the communion of sisterhood, where it doesn't have to be sisterhood in the sense of you have to belong to a church. Because I want it to be something, like I said, is that I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a religious person. And so I find it very difficult that it seems like everywhere I would always look, like trying to find friends and all, they're very, and I'm not saying that that's everywhere. Do you understand? I'm not saying that. But I've found it very difficult not to find my own kind of tribe, you know, my own kind of pod, if we're going to use mermaid lingo, of beautiful souls that feel, you know, there might be some that just have tattoos all over, or you might be a pagan, or you might be, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel as though there's nothing out there. I can't find it. And nor have I probably tried so much as I should. But as you know, and if you've been on my channel any length of time, you do understand that I've struggled immensely with having that sense of communion and fellowship with other women, because it's always become such a nightmare. And I've wanted it to be that place that, you know, we get on and we, you know, meet up once every 3 months or whatever it's going to take to have our little, you know, quilting class or our small little gathering. And we're all encouraging one another and working through things that, like, oh yeah, but it's not a gossip session. It's like, how can we work through and how can we genuinely, unconditionally love one another as sisters? As, you know, this is what they used to do back in, you know, pagan days and stuff. They came together in fellowship, and it was a community of well-loved women that supported one another. It was like a little witch group, you know what I mean? This is the kind of thing that I'm saying that I want it to be, to where we're all celebrated for our individuality. And that leads me to the last portion of my little confessional here, is that I have, like I was saying, I have my entire life, I felt like I have always been like a trendsetter. I've always been on the outskirts. I've never had friends. I've never had girlfriends, really. I've really been quite a loner my entire life. And I was very much bullied and certain things like that, especially because I was, you know, a ginger, like I had red hair. And so I really did have a very lonesome childhood. And I never made friends easily either. So we lived in the country, so I wasn't around people like other people were. And I always just wanted to have my books and my little animal friends, and that's sort of what I've went back to, you know. And I want to share the things with you about the cottage. You know, it's not my ideal, but the whole point is that I'm dreaming up something, and in my mind's eye, it's there, and I'm going to create it, but it will take time. And I want to embrace and I want to welcome you in, is what I'm saying. I want to welcome you in, and it's hard for me. And it's not because I'm like brazen or I'm just this aggressive, naughty person. It's because I find it hard to trust people. And I think that there's probably other people that understand me when I say that if you've been hurt so many times in your life by people that say that they love you, it's very hard to let that vulnerability come down, because you're always like, oh, I'm going to be hurt again. But because I've been working on my belief system and everything, and my subconscious training of my new thoughts, then I'm willing to be vulnerable like that. And that's part of life, right? That's a part of life, and it's going to be all right. And so I always am there and comforting the dear little Raquel, that little girl that was never taken care of. So I'm always taking care of her now. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to take voyage with you. And I hope that you will be there along this voyage. The other thing that I want to say is, I know my opening might seem, my intro, you know, might seem a bit daft, or you might not like it, or you feel it's a little off kilter or whatever. But being a mermaid is in my soul. And the whole concept was that I want you to see this vision. I want you to see that, you know, and I think I'm going to change you probably have recognized that already if you're watching this video, is that I probably will change the music to the intro, but I'm not going to take away who I truly am. And I feel as though, like, you know, and there's been some like YouTube people that was like, you know, judging my channel and said, you know, I've paid them to like say, hey, what about my channel or whatever. That was back in the day or whatnot. But I finally realized, no, I'm not going to change things to make other people catch on to what I'm doing. Because how many times in life you might be like a renegade. You might be someone that's like setting trends, setting fads, setting things. And until the world catches on, no one's, it's crickets. And that's okay, because success to me is not billions and millions of followers. What mine is a community I want to build with people that are like-minded, that are loving, and we have unconditional love. And if you get me, you get me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want you to be like you're my pal, you're my best mate, you know, because you understand me, you know what I'm trying to do. And my intro is basically, what my intro is I'm telling a story that my entire life, since I was 17, I was a mermaid performer. So it's in my blood, it's in my DNA, you know. And so I'm telling you a story, is that I'm coming out of the water because now I'm a bygone mermaid and I'm landlocked. And it's a story I want to bring you on. It's my story. And I'm trying to live this life out as a landlocked mermaid. Do you understand? That's what I'm trying to relay to you in that intro. Now, I do understand that it's a bit off-putting. It's not the typical cottage core, but I'm not typical. I'm different. Everyone is different in this world. You understand? I'm going to be, you know, the little ruby slippers that is going to click 10 times maybe until people catch on. Whereas somebody else might click 3 times and they go home. Dorothy goes home. But I'm not Dorothy. I'm Raquel. And so that's my story. Do you like how I keep doing this? My throat chakra, that goes to show you that I'm very much, I'm working through this. And so I'm thankful that you're bearing with me, and that me sharing my vulnerable side is not the easiest task to do. Let me tell you, I've been debating this for a week and a half, knowing, but I knew that it would be the right time when I did it, because it's always the right time. If you're a spiritual person, you understand this. I live by the law of assumption, from backwards and forwards. I hope that you will join me. I will start to share more of the things with the cottage, more of the things with how things look. And it's very difficult because I've always been a perfectionist, you know, and I want to show everyone the most beautiful and lovely thing. But understandably, life isn't like that. Life isn't like, hey, we're done and we fixed life and everything's hunky-dory. It's not like that. That's not real life. So I'm trying to be more vulnerable, and I want to be your friend. I want you to be my friend. And let's go from there. So thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope you have a lovely day. Cheers, darlings. Toodle pip.